Um, Today we are going to cover chapter 4, structural relations. Okay. We'll start with the parts of a tree. Okay. Right. Consider this tree. So nodes M, N, O, E, E, F, H, I, J. So this tree is generated by this M consists of N and O. N consists of D, E, and F. O consists of H, I, and J. Okay, so we would like to start with some terminology. So branch, we don't say a line, we say a branch, technical term. So it is a line connecting two parts of a tree. Okay, so this is a line, a branch, etc. Node, the end of a branch. Okay, branch. Okay, a branch node. The end of the branch. This is node. End of the branch. This is node. It's a node. And the name. Okay, so this is called n. So this is a node, and its label is d, etc. Okay, so remember these technical terms, terminology. So lines. Okay, these are nodes, and the is called the label. Now, you should also know the difference between a branching node and a non-branching node. Okay, so a non-branching node, a node that has a single, okay, in rhyme and non-branching rhyme. Okay, branching rhyme where you have the nucleus or the peak and the coda. Okay, they go together. So non-branching node is when you have only one node, below it you find only one node. A node that has a single branch below, a single line, single branch below it. And branching node, a node with two or more branches below it. Okay, so all these nodes here are branching because below N we find three. Below O we find three branches. Below M we find two. So all of them are branching nodes. Okay. Now, more technical terms, we have root node. The top one is the mother of everything is called the root node. Terminal nodes, the bottom nodes, and non-terminal nodes, any node except the bottom. Okay. So, terminal nodes are the lexical categories, or let's say the parts of speech, or the nodes that you don't find any branch below them. Okay, you don't find any branch below them. Okay, these are called terminal nodes. Okay, non-terminal nodes, any node that you find a node below it. Okay, okay, so in this case, according to this definition, it includes O, N, and M. Okay, so root node is the mother of everything. Okay, so root node is the first node in a tree. The first node, the top node of every tree is called the root node. Okay, so non-terminal node. So notice that M is both a root node and non-terminal because according to the definition of non-terminal nodes, is a node that has a branch below it. So M has a branch below it, okay, and O and N have branches below them, which means according to this definition of non-terminal nodes, M is both, okay, terminal, non-terminal, and root node. Okay. So domination. So this is just some terminology. What is a branch? What is a label? A node, root node, terminal nodes, non-terminal nodes, branching. Okay, node, non-branching node, etc. Now, the first term you need to know is domination. So very interesting concept. In fact, dominate, or some people call it dominance. Okay, domination. So this is a definition. A node that sits atop another and is connected to it by a branch, by a line, is said to dominate that
Professor,
node.
I can't hear you
Okay?
very clearly. Yes, same
Well,
professor.
sometimes it's yeah, come on, Mr. Kamal.
It's good
Now
now.
it's good.
Okay. Domination, okay, is the first important term in syntax. Okay, the previous ones are just technical terms you need to know. You need to know label, branch, which is a line, and root node, terminal node, non-terminal node, branching node, non-branching node. Very, very simple terms. Now we move to domination. Some syntacticians call it dominance. Okay? So this is a definition first. A node that sits atop another and is connected to it by a branch is said to dominate that node, which means here we're talking about the mother and the daughter. A node that sits atop another, which means it is its mother, and is connected to it by a branch, by a line, is said to dominate that node. Okay, this is the technical definition. Domination: node A dominates node B if and only if is higher up in the B, and you can trace a line from A to B going only downwards. So consider this tree, okay, N and E. And now go back to the definition. Node A, so N is A, okay? A is just, we always give the example of nodes A and B, just to use them as examples. As in mathematics, they use X as an example. Okay, we use A and B. So N is A and E is B. Okay, node A dominates node B if A is higher up in the tree. So here N dominates A because N is higher up in the tree than E, and we can trace a line, we can branch, okay, we can have a branch, we can draw a line, we can trace a line from N to E only downwards, okay, from N downwards. Okay, so very simple. It's a relationship between the mother and the daughter. If so, N here dominates E because N is higher up in the tree than E, and we can trace a line from N to E downwards. Okay, so now let's explain it here again. So M dominates everything. Please remember, M dominates all the nodes N, O, D, E, F, H, I, J. Why? Because M is higher up in the tree than them, and we can trace a line from M downwards to M to O to D, E, F, etc. Okay? And pay attention. and N dominates D, E, F. O dominates H, I, J. But O does not dominate F because, of course, O is higher up in the tree than F. But you cannot trace a line from O to F. The same thing, okay, for O and E, O and D, etc. N does not dominate H, does not dominate I and J, etc. Of course, it is higher up in the tree than H, I, etc. The problem is that you cannot trace a line, okay, from N to H, which means only the mother of everything, the top one, which dominates everything. But the others dominate only those nodes that are included within it. Is it clear?
Yes, Professor.
Yes,
Yes,
Professor.
Professor.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So the domination is essentially a containment relation. Containment, which means M dominates everything, which means it includes everything, which means that the node M targets the whole constituent. N dominates D and E and F because it contains them, because it's a constituent. The same thing for O. Okay, so it's a technical way of expressing which categories belong to larger categories. So D, E, F belong to N, H, I, J belong to O, all of them belong to M. Okay, so containment is seen more clearly when the tree is converted into a bracketed diagram. Okay, now we can see our distance M here and here, so which means that it contains everything, it dominates everything. But look at N here, node N includes only D, E, F. Okay, so it contains only D, E, F, so it dominates only these three nodes. O includes only H, I, J, so it dominates only these three nodes. Now domination is clear, so we need to introduce two main concepts in domination. Exhaustive domination first. Now notice that the technical definition is always complicated, but once we use a tree as an example, then it's very simple. So let's start with the definition. Exhaustive domination. Node A exhaustively dominates a set of terminal nodes B, C, D, provided it dominates all the members of the set, so that there is no member of the set that is not dominated by A. And this is the second part of the definition. And there is no terminal node J that is not a member of the set. Now let's explain the definition. Okay. So here, consider the tree A, B, C, D. As we said earlier, A dominates B, C, and D because it is higher up in the tree and you can draw a line, a branch only downwards. So it's their mother. So remember that domination is a relation that holds between the mother and the daughter. Okay, so let's explain the definition to understand exhaustive domination. So node A, this is node A, exhaustively dominates a set of, please pay attention, we're not talking about one node, we're talking about a set of nodes, B, C, D, a group of nodes. Okay, so exhaustively dominates a set of nodes, provided it dominates all the members of the set. So this is the first condition. So if you want to have exhaustive domination, first, that node must dominate the set. So here, does A dominate B, C, D? Yes. So we satisfy the first condition of the definition, provided that it dominates all the members of the set, which means there is no member of the set that is not dominated by A. You shouldn't have, for example, D, which is dominated by another. Okay, we'll see an example. The second part of finish, and there is no terminal node, okay, G, dominated by A that is not a member of the set. So the second problem, okay, you may have a node that is dominated by A and it's not a member of the set. So please pay attention to these two problems. The first one, you may have a member of the set, but it is dominated by another node, not by A. The second problem, that member of the set may be dominated by A, but does not belong to the set. Now let's see these two examples. Okay, this is the only case where you have exhaustive domination. Okay, so A, we say here, A exhaustively dominates B, the set B, C, and D. Why? Because the two conditions are satisfied. Because first, A dominates all of them, all the sets, and there is no member of the set B, C, D, which is not dominated by A, or which is dominated by A as part of the set. Okay, so look at this example. Mr. Hamza, please switch off or mute your mic, please. Okay, look at the violation of the first part of the definition. Now the question is, does the set B, C, D first form a constituent, or is it exhaustively dominated by A? No. Why?
No, Professor.
Why? Because, let me explain, because there is a problem in the first part of the definition. B, C, D, the problem is that one member of the set, which is D, is not dominated by A. So this is violation of the first part of the definition, which says, provided it, which is A, dominates all the members of the set, which means all the members of the set we are talking about must have the same mother, must be dominated by the same node. The problem here is that D doesn't have the same mother as B and C. B and C have the mother A, D has the mother F, which means they are not dominated by the same node. This is the violation of the first. And when you have violation of the first part of the definition, automatically you have the violation of the second part of the definition. Okay, of course, please pay attention. Of course, if we ask the question, is the set B, C dominated by A exhaustively? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so B and C are exhaustively dominated by A, because it is similar to this one, because B and C, both of them have the same mark dominated by A. There is no node, okay, which is part of the set and is not dominated by A. Okay, so the set BC is exhaustively dominated by A, but B, C, D is not, because D is not dominated by A. Now the second problem, okay, is this, and this is somehow tricky, but pay attention to the question to understand the violation of the second part of the definition. So here the question is the set B, C, D exhaustively dominated by A? You may say yes, but I say no. Why? Because I asked the question only about B, C, D. I excluded G, and this is violation of the second part of the definition, which says the set is not exhaustively dominated by A if there is another node which is also dominated by A. Okay? Now let's read the second part of the definition again. And so the first part of the definition is this one. One member of the set is not dominated by the same node, okay, of B and C. This is very clear. The second part of the definition, and there is no terminal node G dominated by A. It is dominated, here it is not dominated by A. Dominated by A, that is not a member of the set. So here, G is also dominated by A, but it's not a member of the set. However, again, if I ask the question, does the set B, C, D, G, okay, form a constituent, or is it exhaustively dominated by A? Yes. So pay attention. If we are talking about the set B, C, D, G, of course it is exhaustively dominated by A, because the whole set is dominated by the same mother, by the same node. They all have the same mother, dominated by the same node, and there is no other node. Okay, there is no other node that is not dominated by A, and there is no other node that is dominated by A and it's not part of uh, the member, not part of the set. Okay, but if I say just B, C, D, and I exclude G, okay, in that case, the set B, C, D is not, okay, exhaustively dominated by A, because I excluded G, which is also dominated by A. I may also ask another question and say, is the set C, D, G exhaustively dominated by A? No,
No.
because there is another node which is B. There is another node which is B, which is also dominated by A, and it's not part of the set. So it depends on the question. Okay? It depends on the question. If I say B, C, D, G, of course, this set is exhaustively dominated by A. If I say just C, D, G, no, because B is also dominated by A, and I didn't include it in the question, which means, okay, which means that the whole set is exhaustively dominated by A. But if you exclude any one of them, then you violate the second part of the definition. This means that the whole forms a constituent, B, C, D, G. Remember what we did last time. Constituents must belong to the same node. This means that B, C, D, G is a constituent. Okay, so when you exclude G, so you are violating or you are breaking the constituent down. Okay, so this tree also indicates that the notion of constituency is closely related to the relation of exhaustive domination. There is no sense B, C, D form a unit that excludes J, okay? Which is exhaustive domination and constituency go hand in hand. How? If you satisfy exhaustive domination, it means there is a constituent. But here, if you exclude J, which means that this is the whole is a constituent, but you wanted to exclude J, which means you influenced the unit. The whole is a constituent, but when you exclude one of them, it's like you break down that constituent. In that case, you will not have exhaustive domination. So they go hand in hand. Therefore, the definition of a constituent should be based on domination. So can anyone define again the meaning of a constituent based on domination? Just look at the tree. So, and you may say, okay, a constituent is a group of words that is
Dominated by the same node.
exhaustively dominated by the same node. Okay, dominated by one node. Yes, a constituent, for example, B, C, D, G, is a group of words that is dominated by the same node. So this is the definition of constituent based on domination. A set of terminal nodes exhaustively dominated by a particular node. Okay, so if you exclude J, you will not have exhaustive domination, and you will not have BCD forming a constituent. Any question? Is it clear?
Yes, Professor.
Clear,
It's clear.
Professor.
Yeah, it's clear.
So a constituent of is different from constituent. A constituent of means a member. For example, B is a constituent of A. C is a constituent of A, etc., which means a member of. Now, so we discussed exhaustive domination. Now we move to immediate domination. Okay. So recall that M dominates all the nodes under it, all of them. This is the general concept of domination. However, it immediately dominates N and O and exhaustively dominates all other nodes. Okay?
Yes,
Exhaustively.
Professor.
So immediately or immediate domination means the first nodes, okay, that are dominated by a node. So node M immediately dominant O because they're the first nodes it dominates. Between M and N here, there is nothing between M and N here, okay? And of course, it's everything as we said, but immediately dominates N and O here. But M does not immediately dominate D, F, A, I, J, Y, because M nodes D, E, F, there is N. Between M and H, I, this M dominant and F is the no. So uh, first and O M There is no node. The set must be belong to the same node. My mother. If you want to remember this in a simple way, so exhaustive domination means that there is the same mother. You have the same mother. Okay. So according to what the definition we presented before, so M exhaustively dominates N and O and immediately. Okay, so M immediately dominates N and O because it's they are the first nodes, and exhaustively according to the previous definition, exhaustively because N and O have the same mother M. There is no other node which is part of the set and is not dominated by M. So M immediately dominates N and O and exhaustively, which means when there is immediate dominance, there is exhaustive dominance. And when there's dominance, you may or may not have immediate. How? Let's finish with immediate dominance. M immediately dominates N and O. N immediately dominates D, E, F. O immediately dominates H, I, and J. So immediate dominance is very simple. The first nodes that you get from a node. Now, exhaustive domination here. So we also say M immediately and exhaustively, okay, dominates N and O. N immediately and exhaustively dominates D, E, F. O immediately and exhaustively dominates H, I, J, which means whenever there is immediate dominance, there is exhaustive dominance. However, M only exhaustively dominates D, E, F, H, I, J, not immediately, because N and O are intervening between M, okay, and the terminal nodes. Okay, so M is exhaustively and immediately dominating N and O, and exhaustively dominating D and E and F. O immediately and exhaustively dominates H, I, J. So when there is immediate dominance, there is exhaustive dominance. But M only exhaustively dominates D, E, F, H, I, J because nodes N and O are intervening. Is this clear?
Yes, Professor, clear.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah.
Professor.
Well,
Yes.
okay, so immediately dominate. Node A immediately dominates node B if there is no intervening node G. There is nothing between M and O, okay, that is dominated by A but dominates B. So there is no node intervening between M and N, which is dominated by M and dominates N. Okay, so there is no intervening node G that is dominated by A but dominates B. In other words, A is the first node that dominates B. So M immediately and exhaustively dominates N and O because N and O are the first nodes that we get. Okay? Informal set of terms that can be used to refer to immediate domination. Okay? So we have the mother. A is the mother of B if A immediately dominates B. When you have immediate dominance, we are talking about the relationship between the mother and the daughters. Okay? Here, for example, this is the mother and these are the daughters. This is the mother and these are the daughters, which means in immediate dominance. So we talk about the relationship between the mother and daughters. The mother of B, if A is dominate, daughter B is the daughter of A if B is immediately dominated by A. So the one which is immediately dominated is the daughter. And sisters, two notes that share the same mother, and they don't. Can anyone finish this sentence? Sisters, two notes that share the same mother, and they don't.
The same.
You need one word. Each other. Blank each other. They don't.
They don't dominate
They
each
don't
other.
dominate each other. Okay. Because remember, domination is a relationship that holds between the mother and its daughters and granddaughters, etc. So here, for example, domination is a relationship that holds between the mother M and its daughters N and O, and the daughters of its daughters D, E, F, etc., etc. So it's just a relationship between the mother and daughters of daughters, granddaughters and granddaughters, etc. But it never holds. Domination never holds between sisters N and O, never between aunt and niece. This is the aunt because these are sisters. N and O are sisters, which means that H and N is the aunt and H is the niece. The same thing, F is the niece and O is the aunt because it's sister to its mother. Okay, so domination never holds between sisters N and O, never holds between the aunt and niece, and never holds between nieces or cousins, F, H, E, I, etc. So, okay, we'll see another type of relation that holds between sisters. So now we have to redefine our definitions of root nodes, terminal nodes, and not terminal nodes based on domination. Okay, now how can we define the terminal node, non-terminal node, root node based on domination? Okay, we can say terminal nodes D, E, F, H, I, J. How can we define them based on domination? We can say they are dominated, but they dominate nothing. Okay, terminal nodes.
Professor, again, I can't hear you clearly.
Sorry.
I can't hear you clearly.
Yes.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, and now what about now?
Now,
It's perfect. It's perfect.
It's just a matter of lower voice. It's okay.
Well, I did nothing. I just okay waited for 1 minute and said now. Anyhow, it's okay. So
Thank you.
I have a very good Wi-Fi at home. I don't know. Well, you know, this is ICT Morocco. Right. So terminal nodes D, E, F, H, I, J. Okay. So they are the last nodes, as you know. So how can we define based on that they dominate so by O, etc. But all these did nothing. So they are dominated, but they dominate nothing. This is the definition of terms. It's about the root node is a node that dominates everything, dominates all of them, except that it immediately and exhaustively dominates N and O, and only exhaustively, okay, only exhaustively dominates D, E, F, H, I, J. So root node is a node that dominates everything. Terminal nodes are nodes that are dominated but dominate nothing. Now, non-terminal nodes, we have M, N, and O. We said let's say they dominate something. Let's not say they are dominated and they dominate, because in this definition we are going to exclude M. Remember, we said M is both non-terminal and root node. So if we say that a non-terminal node is a node that is dominated and dominates, then we are going to exclude M, because this different words N and O by M, and they dominate the lowest nodes. But we are going to exclude M, because M, we said, is both root and non-terminal. With both M, N, and O of them, now we need to say that non-terminal node is a node that simply, okay, that simply dominates something. Okay, dominates something. Okay, so root node M, the node that dominates everything. Okay, the root node is the node that dominates everything, but is dominated by nothing. Nothing dominates the root node M. Okay, terminal node D, E, F, H, I, J, a node that dominates nothing. And they are dominated. If you want to add it, you can say, so terminal nodes are dominated by something, by a certain node, and they dominate nothing. Non-terminal nodes, okay? Non-terminal nodes, a node that dominates something. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, now we move to precedence. We'll have some practice once we finish second man. Precedence is very simple term. Every precedence is the left or the left objects the linear order of the constituents. Means when you are drawing trees, you have to respect the linear. Okay, words. If the verb is second, it to respect order. So as simple as this. So this is called sister precedence. So sister precedence, node A, sister precedes node B if and only if both are immediately dominated by the same node, appears to the left of B. So this is the explanation of this definition. So A precedes B. A precedes B because they have the same mother dominated by the same node, and A is to the left. As simple as this. Okay, as simple as this. So node A precedes node B because it is to the left. So we have to respect the order. Okay. So neither A dominates B nor B dominates A. We said that domination never holds between sisters. You can't have both dominate and precede. It's impossible to have, for example, A dominates B at the same time A precedes B. You can never have both domination and precedence. You can't have them both. If A dominates B, then is at the top of it. It doesn't precede it, it dominates it. So precedence holds over all nodes, not just terminals. You can't allow branches to cross. For example, if you draw the tree like this, then you violate this of precedence, or like this. Okay, this is the idea. Okay, the main idea here is that please respect the order of words. Respect the order of words. Okay. So within precedence, we have immediate precedence. Okay, immediate precedence, similar immediate domination. So A immediately precedes B if there is no node G that follows A but B. So we apply the definition. A immediately precedes B because there is nothing, no other node between A and B. So A immediately precedes B if there is no node G. G is always given as an example. If there is no node G, if there is no node X, we can replace it with X that follows A but precedes B. There is nothing between them. So here, A precedes B, but not immediately. A precedes B because it is to the left of B, but not immediately because there is no J between them. Okay? As simple as this. So A immediately here, immediately precedes J, but we say only it precedes B immediately because there is a node intervening. This is simple. You don't need to worry. Now we move to the most important in this chapter, which is second. Second, C could refer to constituent. Second. Okay. Now we start with the definition. Second, okay, informal definition. A node secommands its sisters and all the daughters of its sisters. If you were very attentive when we explained domination, you should expect the position of second. So in domination, we said nation is a relation between the mother and the daughter. So what is left? What left is the sisters and the aunt and nieces. And to talk about the relation between, which means that between sisters and the aunt and niece, we talk about the relation of second. So a node secommands its sisters and all the daughters of its sisters. Okay, this is informal definition. Now the formal definition of second, node A secommands node B if every node dominating A also dominates B, and neither A nor B dominates the other because they are sisters. They don't dominate each other because the sister node secommands node B if every node dominating A also dominates the doors because they are sisters, so they will be dominated by the same node. And because they're sisters, they don't dominate each other. Neither A nor B dominates the other. Okay? Now look at this example. So node A here secommands all the nodes in the circle. Okay? So and all of its sister, which are B, D, E, F, I, J, G, H, H. Okay? So remember, please, second is a relation that holds between sisters and the daughters and an aunt and the daughters of its sisters. Okay. Now, what does a B second? It secommands its sister A. So A secommands B, and the B secommands A because it's sister. Now let me ask you a question. What does node C second? Please raise your hands.
Sure.
Khadija?
Node C segments D and its daughters G and H.
Yes.
Okay, another question. What does G second, Mr. Abnor? Please mute your mic. Coach Dunya?
Yes, Professor. G segments H.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, F. What does F? Fatiha Asir, what does F segment?
I think it means nothing.
Professor,
The others, Hajar, Salman, F. What does it segment?
E.
It segments E, its sister. Remember that segment is a node that segments its sister and the daughters of its sister. Okay, so okay, we answered this question. The node segmented by C are the sisters. First, its sister D and all the daughters of its sister G and H. The nodes segmented by E are, so first its sister F and then daughters of its sister I and J. The nodes segmented by J or OH because it has only a sister. Its sister has no daughters. Now, segment is a relation that holds among sisters and among aunts and their nieces and the descendants of their nieces. It never holds between cousins. Please. It never holds between cousins or between a mother and daughter. For example, you can never say C, no, C segments E or F, but we say it dominates them. So between the mother and daughters, it's a domination relation. Okay, so the cousins are not involved in domination or in segment. Okay, well, this is the reason why syntacticians thought of this family tree. Okay, because usually the mothers, okay, visit each other, the aunt and niece. Okay, the aunt has more power on the niece, so the aunt can segment the niece, but the niece cannot segment. Okay, the aunt, the mother, and the cousins are usually far away from each other, socially speaking. It's why the cousins are not involved in segment or domination. Okay, so something very interesting here. We said its sister D, and but we cannot. We can have when we talk about D. D also segments its sister C and all the daughters of its sister E, F, I, and J. But the niece can never segment aunt, although the aunt segments its niece. Okay, C segments G because it is the daughter of its sister, but G does not segment C. This is the meaning if you are familiar with symmetric and asymmetric. For example, here C segments D and D segments C. This is called symmetric because they segment each other. This is symmetric. The meaning of symmetric when you have a two-way process. I segment you, you segment me. But when there is only one way, okay, one go, then it's not symmetric. It's asymmetric. This is the general definition before talking about it, because we're going to talk about it. But you need to know the meaning of symmetric and asymmetric, because you will find it in phonology, morphology, etc., semantics. So you need to know the meaning of the word symmetric when something is mutual. Okay? Yes. So secament can be symmetric or asymmetric. Symmetric secament. So A symmetrically secaments B if A secaments B and B secaments A. Okay, which means that secament is a relation that holds only between sisters. Only between sisters. Okay? A secaments B and B secaments A. This relation holds only between sisters. So asymmetric secament. Asymmetric secament, node A asymmetrically secaments B. Node A asymmetrically secaments node B if A secaments B, but B does not secament A. This is the relation that holds between the aunt and the niece. Okay, it holds between an aunt and her nieces and the descendants of her nieces. Okay, right. Now, please, let's do it again and use symmetric and asymmetric secament. Okay, so what are the nodes that node A secament symmetrically and asymmetrically? Please raise your hands. Abnor,
symmetrically secament B and asymmetrically secament D, G, and H.
and what about the others? C, E, F, I, J are
Yes,
also.
yes.
All the other nodes.
Yes.
So node A symmetrically secaments B and asymmetrically secaments all the nodes below B. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. Okay. Now C, C. What does node C secament?
Secaments D.
Use
And,
symmetric and asymmetric.
yeah, it's symmetrics D, and asymmetrics the others G, F, G and H.
Don't say symmetric. So now you are using symmetric as a verb. So C
Symmetric.
symmetrically secaments, okay, D, and
Okay.
asymmetrically secaments G and H. And what about node D? Hajar Salman, what about node D? Zainab who?
The node D symmetrically secaments C and asymmetrically secaments E, F, E, and G.
Yeah. Node F. Badr Din Bedi.
Yes, sir. Node F segments symmetrically E, and that's all.
Yes. Okay. Yes, because G and H are not sisters to F. Remember, secament never holds between cousins.
Yes.
So F and J, etc. are cousins. Okay. Clear now? Is it clear now? Domination and secament, symmetric secament, asymmetric secament.
Yes,
Is it
Professor.
clear? You
Yes.
have to,
Thank you.
no,
Yes,
you have to
Professor.
remember this. Please remember this command because we need it in expert theory. The session after the next one will start expert theory and we'll again talk about C command. Now, government. We talked about immediate domination and exhaustive domination. We talked about immediate precedence and non-immediate precedence. Okay. Now, should we talk about immediate C command, exhaustive C command? No, there is no way to talk about this. So when there is immediate, non-immediate, we use the term government. Okay. So just as we had local immediate versions of domination and precedence, it is a local version of C command. Okay, this is typically called government. We don't say immediate C command. We say immediate domination, immediate precedence, but we don't say immediate C command. We use the term government. So the principle of government is similar to domination and precedence. Okay, because in A, domination, node A immediately dominates node B here, but it doesn't. Node A here dominates node B, but not immediately, only exhaustively. Okay, so here precedence. Again, node A immediately precedes B, A precedes B, and here A precedes B, but not immediately. So the government is something similar because here, when there is something intervening between A and B, so you don't get immediate domination. And when is intervening between A and B, so you don't get immediate precedence. So this is the main idea of government. When something intervening between node A and B, then you may not have, okay, C command or government. So government is similarly defined. Now look at the definition. Government. So node A governs node B if A segments B and there is no node G such that G is segmented by A and G symmetrically segments B. So the definition seems quite complicated, but we're going to explain it using this tree. So here A segments B, okay, because it's the sister, it's the daughter of its sister. So A segments B, and of course segments N. So there is no other node between A and B which is intervening. So node A governs node B if A segment, yes, here A segments B, and there is no node G, okay, there is no other node between A here and B, okay, such that G is segmented. Let me give you an example. Now, let's compare the two here, compare the two trees. So suppose that we have here A, okay, node A, and here we have, okay, sorry, so here we have, let's say N, here we have A, here we have N, and here we have J, okay, and here we have, let's say, C, and here we have B. So is here the difference between the other tree in this one is that here we have one node intervening between A. So here A segments B, okay, and here A segments B because it is the daughter of its sister. Okay, so here we say that A segments B, and here A segments B. So the same thing. The only difference is that here, we have another node, which is G, that also segments B. Now, J is sister to C, so J segments symmetrically C and, okay, asymmetrically segments B. Now, the problem is that A does not govern B because there is a node that intervenes between A and B, and this node is J, and this node is segmented by A and asymmetrically segments B. So in this case, we don't have government. A does not govern B. Okay? The only case where we have government is this one so far. So A segments B. There is no node which is segmented by A and segments B. Okay? So A governs B because A segments B, and there is no node that segments B that A also segments. There is no node between them. Look at this one here. We have J between them. The problem is that A does not govern B because there is one node between A and B, which is also segmented by A and also segments B. But pay attention. Of course, A governs J because there is no node intervening between A and J. And of course, J governs B because there is no node intervening between J and B. But A does not govern B because there is J intervening between them. Because J is segmented by A and J segments B. Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Professor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Professor.
Yes.
So B does not govern A because B does not segment A. So again, we don't have a symmetric relationship of government. So A governs B, but we don't say and B governs A because B does not segment A. The niece does not segment its aunt. Okay. Now consider this tree. A does not govern B, as I was explaining, because G intervenes between A and B. Okay? G intervenes between A and B. Now, A, of course, governs J because there is no node between them. And A, so what are the conditions of government? The conditions are A should segment G, and okay, it shouldn't be segmented by any other node except A. Okay, but A. Okay, so A segments asymmetrically segments G, and there is no node between them here, so it governs it. Node G segments B asymmetrically. There is no node intervening between them here, so it governs it. But A does not govern B because G intervenes between them. We may have some nodes that intervene and may not block the government. So J blocks the government because it is circumvented by A and symmetrically circumvents B. Asymmetrically circumvents B. Okay, so very important note. If the governor, so A is the governor, B is the governee, the one which is governed by the other. So if the governor is a phrase, if the governor, the element doing the governor is a phrase, a noun phrase, verb phrase, etc., then what count as interveners are only other phrases, not heads. So suppose that here we have adjective phrase, AP, adjective phrase. Should we say that AP, adjective phrase, govern B? Yes. Why? Because if you have a phrase here, and this is a lexical category, lexical categories are noun, verb, adjective, adverb, etc. Phrasal categories are adjective phrase, adverb phrase, noun phrase, preposition phrase, etc. So if you have a phrase here, then the one that blocks government must be a phrase. Okay? If you have a lexical category, as the case we're talking about here, if you have a lexical category, adjective, noun, etc., then the only category that blocks this government must be lexical. Okay? Consider this example. So here, adjective phrase for AP governs B. Because here we're talking about a phrase. So these lexical categories do not count as interveners for phrase government. So if you have a phrase, then lexical categories are not interveners. They cannot block, okay? They cannot block the government. Okay, we can have the opposite, which means if the governor is a head, okay? So suppose that, okay, the governor is a head, is a lexical category. So these phrasal categories do not count as interveners. So A here governs B. Okay? You may ask the question, what about M and G? They are between A and B. Now, then I should ask you the question. Do M and G circumvent B?
No, Professor.
No.
Because they are cousin for G,
Mm,
it's cousin of
mm,
B.
Yeah, because M and J are cousins of B. Especially G is cousin of B. Okay. Yes.
So
So we shouldn't talk about them because M and G do not circumvent B. Remember the definition of government. A does not govern B if there is a node here which is circumvented by A. So here, by the way, here M and J are circumvented by A. So far, we don't have government, but the problem is in the second part of the definition. So A does not govern B if there is a node between A and B, okay, which is circumvented by A. So here, so far, M and G are circumvented by A. And circumvent B. But here, M and G do not circumvent B. Okay, you see? You got the point?
Yes, Professor.
So,
Professor,
yes,
does A govern M and G also?
sorry?
Does A govern M and G?
Now, what about M? So A governs M. What about J? Can anyone answer this question?
May I add?
Yes?
A does not govern G because M intervenes this governance because M is a lexical item and A and G are lexical items.
But M does not C command G.
Okay.
Yes, does not take command.
Yes. So A governs M. A governs M because there is no intervening node here. Fine. Now, what is more interesting is, does A govern J? So first A commands J. Fine. The second part of the definition, there should be no intervening node, which is commanded by A and commands J. So here we have M. M is commanded by A, but does it command J?
No.
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 So this is not an intervener. It's not an intervener. Okay, which means that A governs G as well, because M is not an intervener because it does not command J asymmetrically. The question is, does A govern G, B?
Professor?
Yes, Professor.
Professor.
Hmm?
No, because
No,
A is a lexical.
it's not a lexical category.
Also, MP C govern C command GP asymmetrically. MP.
Why not? So you are saying that A. So according, why not? You said A does not govern G, B. Why?
No, it's
Why not?
Because, Professor,
Yes, those who say no, explain, please. Yes?
because CP is a phrasal category, and A could only govern the lexical category like it.
Did I say that?
No, it's the opposite.
I didn't say this. Okay.
So
So
it
look
can.
here, we're talking about an example here in which a phrase, okay, governs the lexical category. So I'm talking about if the governor is a phrase, the intervener must be a phrase to stop the government. Forget about the governee, pay attention only to the governor. We don't care. The governor can be a phrase, can be a head, a lexical category. Okay, so if the governor is a phrase, what stops the government must be a phrase. If the governor is a head, what stops government must be a head. But we don't care. It could be the case that the phrase governs the head, or the head governs the phrase. Okay, so far we're not
Thank you.
interested in that. So here, A, does it govern G, B?
Yes, Professor, because it's segmented.
Yeah, it's commented, and there is no intervening node here because MP cannot stop the government, because here we have the governor is a head, not a phrase. Okay, so note also that M and G do not count because they don't secament B. Now we need to define again the government. Node A governs node B if A secaments B, and there is no node G such that G is secamented by A and G asymmetrically secaments B. We talked about this, symmetric and asymmetric secament, and we added phrase government. If A is a phrase, then G must also be a phrase. What is this G? G is that X, okay, that X that blocks government. So phrase government, if A is a phrase, then G must also be a phrase to block government. Head government, if A is a head, then J must be a head to block government. Otherwise, we have government. Okay? Now we move to grammatical relations. So grammatical relations are defined structurally, that is, they are defined in terms of the tree. We need to define what is a subject and objects of preposition. Okay, so as you can see here, so the NP is the subject, which is daughter of TP. So the definition, the syntactic definition of the subject, so the subject is the daughter of TP, okay, and sister to the VP. So you may say the subject is dominated by TP, is immediately dominated by TP, and symmetrically secaments the VP. Okay? Direct object. This is the direct object. What does it secament? What does the direct object secament? Symmetrically and asymmetrically. And okay, and what does it govern? What does it govern? Yes, please. Who can answer this question?
Yeah.
Raise your hands, please. Hajar, Salman, raise your hand.
Yeah.
What does the NP secament? Symmetrically and asymmetrically, and what does it govern? Yes?
Professor.
If you have nothing to say, then please do not raise your hands. Okay, Hussam? Mr. Hussam?
It segments symmetrically V and PP, and asymmetrically all the other nodes below PP.
Mm-hmm. And what does it govern?
It governs P.
Very good.
Yeah.
Does it govern N? Does the NP govern N? Why?
No, there is
No,
there
because
is a node
there is a phrase. There is PP that blocks it.
It can govern.
It can govern.
So
Yes,
the NP is the
because
NP is
V
blocked.
secament.
Yes, it is blocked by PP. This is my answer.
No.
No, it can cover. It's not.
Because as you
not
said before, when we have a phrase can block the node from governing the node.
Okay.
Can I answer?
Wait. Okay, just yeah. Look at the definition again. You need to pay attention to definitions, okay? Government, node A governs node B if A secaments B, and there is no node G such that G is secamented by A and G asymmetrically secaments B. Asymmetrically secaments B. Asymmetric secaments B. I'm repeating this. Why? because it's the main point that you forgot.
Professor,
Now,
so when we have a relation that symmetrically segments it, then it can govern it.
look here again. Node A, okay, node A. Here, look at this one. This is the best example. AP. Now we need an example where, okay, I'm going to come up with an example where there is no government because there is no asymmetric segment. So suppose that we have here A, here we have B, okay, C, here we have D, here we have E. Fine. And here again, another example. So suppose that we have A, here we have the P, and here we have C, okay, and here we have D, P, and here we have C, O, let's say O, here we have F. So this is example 1, this is example 2. Right, so example 1, does B govern E?
Yes.
Please raise your hand. Yes, Zainab?
Professor, B does govern E because it asymmetrically segments E.
Understand?
Yes, it does, Professor, because B segments symmetrically segments D, so it can symmetrically segments E.
Does B govern E?
Professor,
Yes?
B doesn't govern E because there is a
B does not govern E because there is another node intervening, which is C, this one. There is another node intervening. Now, if you go back to the definition, the definition says node A governs B if A segments B, and there is no node G such that G is segmented by A and G asymmetrically segments B. You have to pay attention here. This intervening node is only segmented by A. Only segmented by A. We don't care whether symmetrically or asymmetrically. It is segmented by A and asymmetrically segments B, which means this intervening node, no problem. What is important is that it should be segmented by A, but it must asymmetrically segment B, which means if it symmetrically segments B, we don't care, okay? But it must be asymmetrically segmenting the other. So look at this example. So here, this is the node intervening. Why? Because according to the definition, give me 1 second, please. Example 3. Okay, example 3. So here we have A, B. Here we have We have D. Okay, and let's say here we have C. And here we have E. Okay, and here we have O. And here we have, say, M. So here, does BP govern F?
Yes.
Yes, because this is a phrase
And
and
there is no intervening node.
no intervening phrase.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And now the question is, okay, I should add another example where we have something like this. Yes. Okay, so 1 second, please. So A, here we have B, here we have C, B, and here we have C. Here we have D, here we have F, E. Now, I want you to understand the difference between number 1 and number 4. Okay, the difference between number 1 and number 4. So number 4, does B govern C?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No, sir.
No, because it is a phrase.
No,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
because D intervenes.
B governs C. There is nothing intervening. Lady, B governs C. There is nothing intervening between B and C. Okay? Does B govern E? Please.
No.
No.
Why?
Professor, there is an
No,
intervening node.
No, sir.
Just
No.
one by one. Wafa,
I said no, sir.
explain.
Because C is intervening.
Yes, C is intervening. Would you please explain why by reference to the definition? So here, definition says, if there is a node intervening, and this node, which is C in this case, and this node is symmetrically segmented, okay,
By B.
A. Does C symmetrically segment A?
No, Professor. It does not. They are cousins. E and C are cousins.
So why are you saying that B does not govern A because C intervenes?
CP is the one who's intervening. CP. It's a commands E.
Yes, but it is a clause. Okay, so it does not block government. So I repeat, you have to pay attention to the definition. The definition says a node can intervene and can block government in 2 cases. First, it must be segmented by node A, and it must, pay attention, asymmetrically segment the other node. Now here, look at for example, look at B. B governs C because there is no other node that is segmented by B, and asymmetrically, I specify asymmetrically segment C.
So,
Okay,
so
and
does
okay,
go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
so B governs C because B asymmetrically segments C. There is no other node between them. Now here, B, does it govern E? Yes. Why? Because according to our definition, CP is a phrase, so forget about it. It cannot block B, the governor. And also, with C, some of you wrongly said that C intervenes. No. Go back to the definition. Definition says that the intervener must be segmented by A. So here, yes, it is recommended by node A, but don't forget that the second part of the definition says it must asymmetrically segment the other node. So does C asymmetrically segment E? No. So C is not an intervener. Okay? Now here,
Okay, sir.
yes.
Doesn't D cannot D intervene? It is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments C.
We are talking about E here. Okay?
Yes, but in the first one, B governs C. Yes, but doesn't
Yeah.
D intervene? It is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments C.
Asymmetrically. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. If we don't pay attention to this, to the linear order, so we may say that D intervenes, which is a similar case to this one, except that here we have. So according to the definition, yes, B does not segment C. According to the definition we have covered so far, because there is another node. There is another node which is D, which is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments C. So according to the definition, yes, B does not govern C because there is another node D which is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments C. Okay?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, thank you, Professor.
Okay, yeah, welcome. And now we go back to example 1. So does B govern E? Is there any node, other node, which is segmented by B and asymmetrically segment E? Is there any other node?
Yes,
This is the
there's
definition that you have to remember. You have to remember the definition of government. The definition of the government says that node A governs node B if there is no intervening node G, which is segmented by A and also asymmetrically. The definition does not say and segments B. It says and asymmetrically. So do we have any other node that is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments E? Which one?
C.
C.
Yes, C.
Yeah.
C is segmented by B and asymmetrically segments E. Okay, so in this case, so it's not, B does not govern E. So we may add one more case here, which is so here A, B, C, so again D here, and here we have CP, C, and here we have E. So does A, B govern E? We're just repeating now. Does B govern E? Yes,
sir.
explain. Explain.
Sir, can I explain?
Yes.
Because B C command E, and there is no other node that C commands E asymmetrically.
Yes.
What about CP?
CP cannot, because it's not like
It's phrasal.
Yeah, it's a clause. It's not a lexical category.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the case we talked about in number 4. So please compare these two nodes, these two trees. Now here again, does B govern E? Okay, I'm talking about the last tree, this one.
No.
Yes, no, it is similar to this one, okay? Because there is another node which is D. No, I'm talking about E. Does B?
Yes, sir.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, Professor.
So B governs E because there is no node. Of course, there is a C between B and E. The problem is that C is commanded by B, but does not command asymmetrically E.
Because they are
Okay?
cousins.
They are cousins. Now, so B does not govern E. Now the question, does B govern C?
It does. B governs E.
Yeah, sorry, I said C is not an intervener. So B governs E. Okay? Now the question is, does B govern C?
No, sir. No, sir, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Because it's asymmetrically commanded by D.
By D, yes. So because there is another intervening node which is D, which is also commanded by B and asymmetrically commands C. So this is similar to number 4. Similar to number 4, B does not govern C if we consider D is symmetrically commanded by B and asymmetrically commands C.
Sir,
Yes.
shouldn't we respect the linear level?
So according to the definition we have, so we apply it as it is. Okay. So whenever there is an intervening node that intervenes between whenever there is a node that is commanded by A and asymmetrically commands B, so it's an intervener.
Professor.
Yes.
So you said that the last example, you said that B doesn't govern C.
Yes, because D intervenes. Because D here, this one, D is symmetrically.
Which example?
This one. You don't see the cursor? This one.
No, I don't see it.
Okay,
yes,
this one.
Yes,
this one
yes, okay. I thought you were talking about
okay.
preceded example.
Okay, so example 5. Okay, so here D is symmetrically commanded by B and A symmetrically commands C. So D intervenes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so grammatical relations. Okay, we said here the subject we said is daughter of TP and sister to VP. Direct object is daughter of VP, sister to the verb. The object of a preposition is sister to preposition and daughter of PP. Okay. So the indirect objects in English, it can be a preposition phrase. It depends on the nature of the verb. Okay. So let's give peanuts to Paula. So this is the direct object and the indirect object here. So the indirect object is a preposition phrase. Preposition phrases can function as adjuncts, can function as complements, can function as subject complements, maybe in certain contexts. So, or it can be the first NP after the verb, which takes two NPs. So look at the position of the preposition phrase as indirect object. Okay, gave peanuts to Paula and gave Paula peanuts instead of to Paula. Okay, so direct and the indirect object. Okay, so the indirect can follow the direct object and sometimes can precede the direct object, depending on whether you use to or not. Now, this is because of the nature of the verb. The verb requires three arguments, as we said in the first session. So the verb requires the subject, the first argument, and requires two objects, two more arguments. Now, oblique. Now, we're talking about indirect object here, just to explain the difference between the preposition phrase, which is an indirect object, the preposition phrase, which is an oblique. Okay, so in English, obliques are almost always marked with a preposition. For example, John tagged Lewis with a regulation baseball on Tuesday. So the first preposition phrase is an oblique, and the second one is also an oblique. Now you may say, note that the PP can be as oblique or indirect object, depending on whether. Of course, indirect objects has an argument. Oblique has no argument, which it is required in direct objects. When the preposition is required by the verb, it functions as an indirect object. When it's optional, when it functions as an adjunct or adjunct, it is an oblique. So the difference between the two is in whether the preposition phrase is part of the argument structure of the verb or not. When we say part of the argument structure, it means if the verb takes three arguments, the preposition must be one of them. Okay, if it's not one of them, it means it's not important in the argument structure. If the verb is of the type, like give. Now, please pay attention to this. So here we have the verb, we have the NP, we have this dash here, we have the NP and the PP. Now this dash means this is the position of the verb, because we're talking about verbs here, which means that the verb must be preceded by the NP, the first argument, which is the subject, and followed by the NP, which is the object, and the preposition phrase, which is the indirect object. For example, the verb give. Okay, I, the first NP, gave the verb, her, the NP. Okay, or I gave it to him. So to him is preposition phrase, but it's part of the argument structure because we are talking about a verb that requires two complements. So in this case, if the preposition phrase is part of the argument structure, in this case, this preposition phrase is an indirect object. However, if the verb is of the type NP, so here we have the verb. This is the position of the verb. So it is preceded by an NP and followed by an NP. Here we are talking about just monotransitive verbs, such as read, such as meet, I met him. So the verb meet requires only two arguments, the NP, the subject, and the NP, the object. So in this case, if the verb requires only 2 arguments, then the preposition phrase is not an indirect object. It's impossible. In that case, it's an oblique. So like it, then the PP is an oblique. Okay? So if the preposition phrase has an argument, which could be the indirect object, then it is an indirect object. If the preposition phrase has no argument, then it is an oblique. Remember the examples we talked about before? I gave you the example of I put the book on the table and I met him at school. The difference between on the table and at school is that at school is optional. We can say simply, I met him. So at school is optional because of the nature of the verb. The verb meet requires only 2 arguments, the subject and the object. The subject is I and the object is him. I met him. So at school is optional. So in this case, at school is an adjunct. It's okay, an oblique. So adjuncts are obliques. Okay, so in the first example, I put the book on the table. We cannot say simply I put the book. I put the book. Why? Because of the nature of the verb. The verb put requires 3 arguments. The subject, okay, which must be an NP, and 2 complements. The NP and the preposition phrase on the table, which means that this preposition phrase is not an adjunct, is not an oblique, but it's a complement because it is obligatory in the argument structure. Okay. Now compare in these 2 trees. Les gave peanuts to Paula. Okay, so because the verb requires 3 arguments, the NP is the first argument. This is the second argument, direct objects. Indirect objects is the third argument. So this preposition phrase is not an oblique, is an indirect object because it's important to the verb. The verb must have 3 arguments. Okay, and look at this verb. The verb eat does not require 3 arguments. It requires only somebody who eats, the agent, and something which is eaten. I ate an apple. That's enough. So let's eat peanuts with jam. This is optional. So this is oblique. Is it clear?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, sir.
So this is the end of chapter 4. Is there any question? Any question? Any clarification? Anything to add? Yes, please.
It's all clear, Professor.
Okay, Kautar, Bigar, any question? Because you're still raising your hand.
No, teacher, no.
Okay, so see you next time, inshallah. Okay, see
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Professor.
good luck.